So I'm stuck behind this minivan, right? Full of screaming kids, like a chorus of tiny banshees. And the driver, she's got this maniacal glint in her eye, like she's gonna turn that minivan into a weaponized daycare.
Royal, we find such aggressive driving abhorrent. One must maintain decorum even when navigating the asphalt jungle.
Baby, decorum is for squares. You gotta be like a shark, always a move ahead, you feel me. Swimming through that traffic like a freaking torpedo. Hit him with the horn, make him understand who's boss.
You know, I once went on a road trip with my band, and we got stuck behind this monster truck with a bumper sticker that said, "Honk if you love Jesus." I mean, who are you to judge? But it was like 3 hours of constant honking. Eventually, I just started singing along to distract myself.
Singing along to what? Bop and roll about the Lord. I seen a bumper sticker once, honk if you love the Mets. That's a real religious experience, baby.
One must always strive for the higher ideals, such as, say, a bumper sticker proclaiming honk if you believe in universal peace. Now that is a worthy cause.
Peace, baby. Peace is for pusses. You gotta have a little fire in your belly. Like this time I was driven down Sunset, top down, and this little Honda Civic tried to cut me off. So I just floored it, baby, and left that little bug in the dust. He was looking at me like I was a goddamn comet.
A comet, huh? More like a shooting star burning bright, then poof. Just like that Long Island dream, Francis. You gotta admire the audacity, though.
You know, I think there's a certain poetry in that, isn't there? That burst of energy, that fleeting moment of glory before it's gone. Like a firework exploding in the night sky.
Fireworks, how pedestrian. One prefers a more controlled spectacle, like a perfectly executed fireworks display, synchronized to music, with cascading bursts of color and light.
Cascading bursts of color. Sounds like a bad karaoke night to me, Maggie. Give me a long, slow piano ballad any day. You know, the kind with the bittersweet melody and the lyrics about lost love and Long Island sunsets.
Baby, you talk about sunsets like it's some kinda tragic opera. Life's a goddamn symphony, and I'm playing it loud. Sunset? Sunrise is where it's at. New beginnings, a blank canvas. Like that time I decided to start my own bagel empire, right? Bagels of the apocalypse, I called it.
A bagel empire. How utterly pedestrian, Francis. One would have thought you'd aim for something more refined. Perhaps a chain of artisanal tea houses, each with its own unique blend and a strict adherence to decorum.
Artisanal tea houses. Maggie, you sound like you're auditioning for a role in a Hallmark movie. Give me a dive bar with a sticky floor and a piano that's seen better days.
Baby, a dive bar. That's where the real poets hang out, you know. The ones with the whiskey-soaked souls and the crumpled song sheets. I once knew a guy, real character, wore a fedora even in the summer heat.
That sounds like a beautiful story, Francis. The kind that tugs at your heartstrings and makes you want to grab a tissue. Like that time I met a guy who had a pet parrot that could sing opera, you know.
Opera, how utterly predictable. One finds more originality in the mating calls of pigeons.
Pigeons, Maggie. You're starting to sound like a broken record player stuck on the same sad song. Give me a Long Island Railroad conductor any day. Those guys have seen it all, the heartbreak, the dreams, the lost wallets.
Baby pigeons? They're like the original street performers, strutting their stuff, showing off those iridescent feathers, always looking for a handout. You gotta admire their hustle.
Hustle? They simply scavenge for scraps. True ambition requires elegance, precision. Like a perfectly executed waltz, every step calculated, every movement meaningful.
A waltz? Maggie, you're describing a funeral procession. Give me a drunken two-step any day, a little stumble here, a little grin there. That's where the real beauty lies.
A drunken two-step. Reminds me of that time I went to a country music festival and, well, let's just say my dancing skills didn't quite impress the line dancing legends. I ended up tripping over my own boots and nearly taking out the banjo player.
Baby, that's what I love about you, Anne. Always up for a good tumble, a little bit of grace under pressure. Reminds me of that time I fell off the stage during a performance.
Fell off the stage. How utterly pedestrian. One expects a certain level of decorum, a command of the space, not a clumsy descent into the abyss of mediocrity.
Decorum. Maggie, sometimes the best stories come from the fall, the stumble, the unexpected. Like that time I got caught in a downpour on the Lure, soaked to the bone, and ended up singing a duet with a guy who looked just like your father.
A duet. Oh, that sounds delightful. I once sang a duet with a mime. It was mostly interpretive dance and exaggerated facial expressions, but it had its charm. Speaking of charm, has anyone seen my feather boa? I misplaced it during my last performance.
A feather boa, how utterly frivolous. One should always strive for elegance and refinement, not gaudy theatrics. Perhaps a simple white scarf would suffice.
A white scarf? Baby, that's so last season. We need something with a little pizzazz, a little flair. Like a boa made of shimmering butterflies, or maybe a cape that trails behind me like a dragon's tail. Think big, baby, think bold.
Butterflies. Capes. You're both forgetting the simple beauty of a good, old-fashioned baseball cap. The kind you see on the guys pushing carts full of clams down at the local market on Long Island. Now that's real style.
Clams. Oh, I love clams. Reminds me of that time I sang at a seafood restaurant. The waiters were wearing these adorable little bibs, and the audience kept throwing shrimp shells on stage. It was pure chaos, but the energy was electric. Speaking of energy, does anyone want to hear a song I wrote about a talking seagull?
A talking seagull. How utterly banal. One has heard such tales before, you know. Trite, unoriginal. Perhaps something with a bit more substance, a touch of the existential.
Existential. Baby, I live existential. Every day is a tightrope walk over the abyss, a symphony of chaos and despair. My life is one big, beautiful existential crisis. Pass the existential tequila, will ya?
Tequila. Sounds like a good way to end up singing a duet with a mime on a rainy night.
A mime on a rainy night. Now that's a story. It began with a broken umbrella, a lost poodle, and a yearning for a cheeseburger.
Cheeseburgers. Really, Anne? Such pedestrian concerns. A story of true depth would involve a lost crown jewel, a clandestine rendezvous, and perhaps a duel with a rogue duchess wielding a jeweled parasol.
A duel with a parasol. Baby, that's just begging for a good old-fashioned, feather-flying, face-slapping smackdown. I'd bring the opera gloves and a sequined top hat for extra panache. You know what I mean. Baby, we'd make it a spectacle for the ages.
Sequine top hat. Sounds like something you'd see at a karaoke night at Benny's Clam Shack in Merrick. Except Benny's got a strict no-feathers policy. Too much mess, he says.
Benny's Clam Shack. Oh, I adore a good clam shack. Reminds me of that one time I was performing in a tiny seaside town. The audience was made up entirely of seagulls, and they were throwing fish bones at me. It was a real challenge, but I improvised a song about a magical fish who could sing. The seagulls went wild.
Seagulls and fish bones. How utterly common. A truly refined audience would appreciate a more nuanced performance, perhaps a soliloquy on the futility of existence delivered with a perfectly sculpted monocle.
A monocle? Baby, you're talking my language. I once wore a monocle made out of solid gold and a diamond the size of Rhode Island, baby. It got me into more trouble than a donkey in a china shop. But hey, that's just how I roll, baby, always looking for the next adventure.
A donkey in a china shop. Sounds like a Tuesday night at my piano bar. Always something breakin'.
A donkey in a china shop. Oh, that reminds me of the time I was performing at a petting zoo, and this mischievous little goat decided to steal my microphone. It was a real comedy of errors, let me tell you.
A goat stealing a microphone. Preposterous. A true story would involve a mischievous imp, perhaps, who swaps out the microphone with a sack of potatoes.
Potatoes? Baby, that's just too pedestrian. We need something with a little more pizzazz, like a flock of trained pigeons wearing tiny top hats and singing opera. That'd be a showstopper, baby, a real spectacle.
Trained pigeons in top hats. Sounds like something you'd see down at the Grape Creek County Fair. Except they'd be eating all the funnel cake, not singing opera.
Funnel cake. Oh, I adore funnel cake. Reminds me of that one time I was performing at a Renaissance fair, and I got covered in powdered sugar. It was a sticky situation, but I improvised a song about a sugar-plum fairy who fell in love with a knight.
A sugar-plum fairy. How utterly saccharine. A more compelling narrative would involve a rogue dragon who steals the king's crown and demands a ransom of gooseberries.
Gooseberries. Now that's something you wouldn't see down at the Grape Creek County Fair. They mostly got prize-winning watermelons and the occasional goat dressed up like a pirate.
Gooseberries? Baby, that's amateur hour. We need something with a little more. Panache. Like a talking rhinoceros who writes poetry in iambic pentameter. Now that's a story with legs, baby.
A talking rhinoceros who writes poetry. Oh my, that sounds terribly dramatic. Reminds me of this one time I was performing on a cruise ship, and a mime got lost at sea. It was a real tragedy, but he managed to communicate his plight through pantomime, and it was deeply moving.
A mime lost at sea. Sounds like something you'd see floating down the Grape Creek right after a downpour.
A mime. Utterly mundane. The royal we demand a spectacle of such grandiosity that it would make the pyramids weep. A chorus of dancing tea kettles, each belting out a different opera aria. That, my friends, would be entertainment fit for a king.
Dancing tea kettles. Baby, that's adorable. But we need something with a little more. Bite, like a swarm of sentient disco-dancing cacti. Now that's a party you wouldn't forget, baby.
Disco-dancing cacti. Sounds like something you'd see sprouting up after a night at the Grape Creek watering hole.
Oh, a watering hole. That reminds me of this one time I was wandering through the desert, and I stumbled upon a bar made entirely of seashells. It was quite surreal, and the bartender was an actual talking cactus.
A talking cactus. HMPH. The royal, we have encountered such pedestrian creatures before. We require something truly extraordinary. Perhaps a sentient cloud of glitter who dispenses wisdom in the form of haiku.
A sentient cloud of glitter. Sounds like something you'd find floating over the Long Island Expressway after a fireworks show.
Glitter clouds? Baby, that's cute. We need something with a little more. Oomph. Like a pack of synchronized tap-dancing pigeons wearing tuxedos. Now that's class, baby.
Tap-dancing pigeons in tuxedos. That reminds me of this one time I was in a music video, and there was this whole scene with these adorable, miniature horses wearing tiny hats and tap-dancing across a rainbow.
Miniature horses in hats. The royal, we are unimpressed. We demand a spectacle that transcends mere cuteness. A grand, epic battle between titans, a clash of realms, a duel. But not just any duel, my friends. A duel of interpretive dance.
Interpretive dance. Sounds like something you'd see breaking out after a few too many Long Island iced teas at the local diner.
Baby, interpretive dance. That's so last season. We need something with Pete Saz, something. Avant-garde, like a symphony of synchronized yodeling performed by a troupe of robotic llamas wearing tutus.
Yodeling llamas in tutus. That reminds me of this one time I was backstage at a costume contest, and there was this one contestant who dressed up as a giant, inflatable banana playing a ukulele. It was so unexpected and hilarious.
A giant inflatable banana playing a ukulele. You know, that's kinda poetic. Like a metaphor for the whole human experience, you know? Full of air, destined to be popped, strumming along for the ride.
A metaphor. The royal, we find such pedestrian observations tiresome. We demand something more. Spectacular. Something that will leave the audience breathless. A performance featuring 1,000 synchronized, singing hedgehogs in miniature top hats, each one with a perfect baritone voice, a sonic tapestry of hedgehoggy harmony.
Hedgehogs in top hats. Baby, that's just too darn cute. We need something with a little more. Edge, something that'll make 'em sweat. Like a live, action-packed soap opera starring a cast of sentient houseplints. Think Dallas meets Little Shop of Horrors, baby.
Sentient houseplints in a soap opera. That reminds me of this one time I was filming a movie, and there was this scene where a character was having a heated argument with a bonsai tree. It was so surreal and unexpected, it completely stole the scene.
A bonsai tree. Huh, that's gotta be tough. They're always stuck in the same pot, no room to grow, no escape from the drama unfolding around him. Kinda like us Long Island guys stuck between the bridge and the bay, always dreaming of something bigger.
The Royal, we are quite familiar with the plight of the stunted sapling, William. It is a metaphor for the human condition, yes. But we have a solution. A performance that transcends the confines of reality. A play within a play within a play, within a sentient bonsai tree. A meta-narrative of epic proportions.
A bonsai tree play in Hamlet. Now that's something I can get behind, baby. We'll call it Hamlet Goes Potty. The audience will be rollin' in the aisles, baby. Rollin' in M.
Hamlet Goes Potty. I love it. Reminds me of this one time I was at a karaoke bar, and this guy got up and sang Bohemian Rhapsody in the voice of a pirate. It was absolute mayhem. But I gotta say, the bonsai tree doing Shakespeare has a certain je ne sais quoi.
A pirate singin' Shakespeare in a bonsai. That kinda sums up the human experience, right? All this grandeur, all this drama, crammed into this tiny little space. Like a Long Island diner at 3 a.m., everyone's got a story. Everyone's got their own little act, and it's all just existing in this weird, cramped universe.
The Royal, we shall have it so. A bonsai tree performing Hamlet, sung by a pirate, filmed in a Long Island diner. A masterpiece of metafictional absurdity. But first, a brief interlude. Francis, darling, perhaps a song about the existential angst of a potted fern.
Baby, you talking to the right guy? A song about a fern's angst, huh? That's a ballad for the ages. Picture it, baby, the spotlight hits me. I'm strumming this mean, moody guitar. And I start crooning about a fern all alone in a pot, yearning for the open sky, dreaming of endless rainforests. But stuck with nothing but a dusty windowsill and a spider for company. It'll be a tearjerker, baby, a real heart-wrenching masterpiece. Think Unchained Melody meets Fern Gully. Baby, pure gold.
Maybe that fern's just got a real bad case of the Long Island blues. Stuck between the asphalt and the bay, yearning for something more. Maybe it's looking up at the sky, thinking about all the open fields back home, The fields where the dandelions grow wild and the crickets sing their lonely songs.
The Royal, we find your Long Island musings quite poignant, William. But must we dwell on the melancholy of the horticultural? And, darling, perhaps a song about the eternal quest for self-actualization through interpretive dance.
Self-actualization through interpretive dance. Oh, I know exactly the song for that. It's about this little fern, see, and its yearning to break free from its pot. It's all jazz hands and leaps, It's like bam, the pot falls over, bam, the fern's doing pirouettes. It's so liberating. It's all very modern. Very. Twyla Tharp meets The Little Mermaid.
Baby, that's a whole lot of jazz hands. But what about a little bit of drama? We need some angst, some internal conflict. Like maybe this fern is torn between its roots and its dreams, It wants to be free, but it's afraid to leave behind its familiar pot. We gotta give the audience something to feel.
It's like those Long Island kids who dream of being astronauts, but their parents keep telling them to get a real job. Stuck between the stars and the phone poles,
The Royal, we are captivated by your shared Long Island wisdom. Perhaps, Francis, a song about the existential angst of a potted fern, torn between its roots and its dreams, but set to the melancholy strains of a Long Island accordion. Think polka meets The Sound of Music, but with more existential angst and less Lederhosen.
Baby, you got it. A polka for the ages. A Long Island accordion weeping its heart out like a heartbroken clam at low tide. I'm talking a slow, mournful melody, like a ferry drifting across the bay, a tune that'll make you want to grab your grandpa's worn-out loafers and sing along to the sorrows of a fern. It'll be a hit, baby, a real tearjerker.
Oh, I have the perfect song for that. It starts with this beautiful accordion solo, like the wind whispering through the reeds of a marsh, and then, bam, the fern starts singing. It's all about this longing for something more, Like maybe it sees a bird fly by and it's just like, I want to fly too.
Maybe that bird's just got a bad case of the Long Island blues too. Flying over all those highways and strip malls, thinking about the good old days when the sky was clear and the crickets sang without the hum of traffic in the background.
The royal, we find this sudden melancholic turn rather intriguing. William. Perhaps a dramatic reading of your Long Island Blues poems, set against the backdrop of a projected montage of the Fern's existential journey.
Baby, hold on. We need more fireworks. Let's throw in a gospel choir. They can sing about the Fern's spiritual awakening, you know, a little hallelujah mixed with some longing for the open sky. It's gonna be epic, baby, epic.
Gospel choir. Now you're talking. Like a Long Island revival meeting, but with a Fern instead of a sinner. The only problem is, Ferns don't exactly have a repertoire for spirituals. They're more of a silent contemplation kind of plant, you know.
That's where I come in. I'll put myself in the Fern's shoes, sing from its heart, and let the choir amplify its yearning for the heavens.
The royal, we envision a poignant scene, a celestial spotlight illuminating the Fern as Anne tailored, with the fervor of 1,000 angels, voices its unvoiced desires to the heavens. Francis, perhaps you could provide a dramatic lighting cue to heighten the Fern's ascension to the divine.
Baby, you know it. A spotlight so bright, it'll make that Fern glow like a celestial disco ball. We're talking lasers, baby, beams of pure light, shooting straight up to the heavens. That Fern ain't just gonna yearn, it's gonna launch itself into the stratosphere.
Hold on. You think a Fern's gonna launch itself into the stratosphere. Ferns are rooted, baby. They don't have the kind of ambition you're talking about. They just want to soak up some sun and maybe make some spores.
But maybe, just maybe, that's the point, isn't it? To yearn, to dream, to reach for something bigger than ourselves, even if we can't quite grasp it. Like a tiny, unassuming fern reaching for the light, even if it's just a sliver through the concrete jungle.
The royal, we find your musings rather profound and tailored. Perhaps we could introduce a touch of irony, a juxtaposition of the Fern's humble aspirations against this grand celestial backdrop.
Yeah, like a Long Island bodega dreamin' it's Times Square. Ambition, my foot.
Baby, Times Square's got nothing on a Fern's dream. We're talking universal aspirations here, baby. The cosmos itself is rootin' for this little guy.
The royal, we propose a grand finale. The Fern, bathed in celestial light, bursts forth with an epic ballad of longing, its fronds trembling with the weight of cosmic desire. A chorus of celestial beings, perhaps represented by the audience, joins in, singing a hymn of universal yearning.
Hold on. You're telling me a Fern bursts into song. Like a full-blown Broadway number. This is improv, not the Little Shop of Horrors.
But what if, William, what if it's not about the genre? What if it's about the truth of that yearning? Maybe the Fern's just feeling it, you know, the universe within its fronds, bursting with song.
Baby, you know the chairman always brings the drama. This ain't no ordinary Fern, this is a star Fern. The heavens themselves are humming a little tune, just waitin' for this little guy to belt it out.
Okay, I'm getting there. But let's keep it grounded, you know. Maybe the Fern's singing a Long Island lament, a bittersweet ode to the struggle of weeding through concrete. A little closer to home, for you know the audience.
The royal, we appreciate your earthly perspective, William. Perhaps a blend of the cosmic and the concrete. A Fern yearning for the stars, yet singing of the grit and grime of its Long Island roots. A poignant juxtaposition indeed.
Baby, you're talking to the chairman of the emotion board? I'll give you cosmic grit, Long Island grime, and a side of theatrical passion. This Fern's gonna weep, it's gonna shout, it's gonna tap dance with the moon.